Mishos above, and
It's Wednesday, right?
Wednesday, the Mitzvah Shem will have a Fabrengen on Wednesday too. There is a person that tells Menachem that he was a cop. He was assigned by the NYPD to be there for the Rebbe. And he knows a lot of stories and he wants to tell. So it seems like he'll be coming. And if nicht, whatever. Es ist ein alter Yid, as a Yid.
What?
And he says he has a lot of stories to tell.
He used to walk his with the fourth aspect of the Rebecca.
Yeah, so he said.
Yes. The truth.
Okay, anyway, wissen wir nicht sein, wir wollen verbringen am Mitzvah Shem. Because I'll say, the lawyer Yom Tov and Misal, you know what, let's skip. The first one is the Gemara Tainus. It's Kamat Zabazach, let's go straight to Gemara Bava Basra. Knan Hossam, Amr B'Shem Gamliel, lawyer Yom Tov and Misal, Chamish Hasabav, Kim Kippurim. There was no bigger Yom Tov than these days. Shabhem B'nais Yisrael Yotzim, Rafli Lovin, Shulam, Shulavayshus, Mishain Loy. And they used to dance, and Gemara says later, and there were three groups of girls, and they used to take the begodim on loan from each other, so loy levayish m'shein loy, and that was a day to make shidduch.
Why all white?
Why?
Colors already?
We're trying to be pashtus because it's Yom Kippur. I don't know. It's a menamas and mechilas avaynus. Bishlam Yom Kippurim Yom Slicha Mechila. It's not like people think it's Yom Tov because that was the day Bnei Yisrael went out. It's the opposite. If it's a Yom Tov, and that's why they used the opportunity. So Yom Kippur, verstehe, it's an unbelievable day. It's Yom Slicha Mechila. Yom Shenit Lo Luchas Acharoinus. It's a day they got the Eibush said Shalachti the Kid Varech and he gave him the second Luchas. El Chamishos above me. When we say Chamishos above, what's special? Amar Bihuda, Amar Shmuel, Yom Shehutru Shvatim Bava Zebezeh. That the Shvatim could marry each other. My Derush Zeh, Davar Zeh Hadover, Dover Zeh Lo Yinoik El Beder Zeh. After the Bnei Slavcha got a piece of the land, so the Bnei Yosef complained. So they're going to get married to someone else, and we're going to. So it's the Chazal Darshan that this is only a thing for one generation, and afterwards the Shvatim are allowed to marry in with each other.
Why they weren't allowed to marry to each other?
Because then the Bnei Yosef was scared that the real estate is going to go from their shevet to another shevet. And that day, when the Chazal said that it's Hutra Shvatim Love is a big Yom Tov.
And that happened in Chamisha.
That's a Chadish about Rabbi Vachanam Birchem Shuta Shevet Binyamin Love of the Koil. There was a story of Shevet Binyamin, which was a terrible story. And there was a war against Shevet Binyamin. And first they didn't allow anyone to marry to Shevet Binyamin. The Ksiv V'ish Yisrael Nishbar Al Mitzvah Leimer Ish Mimeno Leitan Biter LeBinyamin Leisha My Darush Mimeno V'Lemi Baneinu. That they said that there was only that thing was only one generation. The children are allowed to let their daughters marry Binyamin, and when they let their daughters marry to Shevet Binyamin, they had children, and they were able to rebuild the Shevet. That's when the people in the Midbar stopped dying. As long as the people were dying in the Midbar for the 40 years, David didn't speak to Moshe. That only the Abisha spoke. So if you think about it, it's crazy.
4 years, the
yeah. Ula Amar Yom Shebitul B'Yoshev Ben Ela Par the Sos Shahoishiv Yeravim Al Adrochim Shalayali Sola Regel. Yeravim Ben Nevat was scared that if the people will be Ola Regel to Yerushalayim, they will at some point say, who needs to have two kingdoms? Let's make again one kingdom. So therefore he put guards and he didn't let that they should go be Ola Regel. They made the bracha Tova Meitiv. Tova Meitiv is really in two places. When benching, we have a fourth bracha Tova Meitiv, And also, when a Yid has a good thing that he shares with another Yid, he makes the bracha, Hatoiv V'Hameitiv.
Better wine.
Or when two Yidden have two wines.
Well, it's a big deal that
it was a very big deal. They were laying outside, it was a bizoyin.
How many
Yidden
were outside?
I don't know. V'Hameitiv Shnitten L'Kvura. Apparently a long time. Rabba v'Rab Yosef v'Tarva Yom Shebchoiskim Boy Melichris Eitzim. That day they stopped cutting the wood l'marocha for the mizbeach. Tanya Rabbi Lezer God Loimer Kivin Shigir Chamishos Bov Toshes Koich Shal Kama. What?
Better late than
No, that's perfect.
You're right on time.
Rabba Rabbi Yosef v'Tarva Yom Shebchoiskim Boy Melichris Eitzim l'marocha. That was the day they stopped cutting the wood for the marach. That was it. It was the last day you could cut wood. Tanya Rabbi Lezer God Loimer Kivin Shigir Chamishos Bov Chamishos comes Kosher Koich Shal Kama. The sun gets a little weaker. They wouldn't anymore cut wood for the Mizbeach. That day they announced that day is called the day of breaking the axes. From this day, the Moisif, a person who's Moisif, from the nights become bigger. So a person adds to his night to learn Torah. Moisif, they give him extra life from heaven. Moisif, Yosef, Mike Yosef, Tikbrima, Rahman al-Islam, the opposite of a long life.
So the most popular one is the 40 that were buried every Shabbat. That's the most best one.
The what?
The most famous one.
From the Gemara, it seems that there's a lot of reasons why Chamish Asab Av
everybody knows
is important. So what are the reasons? So several reasons. Why is it so special? But if you go talk in the order of the Gemara, so that the Shvatim are allowed to marry each other, and that the Shevet Binyamin could marry into Klal Yisrael. Number 3, that the Mesa and Midbar stopped dying, and there was no more. All the Yidden were able to be Oilad L'Regel. There was a day that Aruge Beta were able to be buried. And number 6 is that there was Yom Tov and Amagel. If you look closely in the Gemara, we have a klal in Shas that whenever the Gemara has a shakla mataya, one opinion, that shows that the Gemara likes that opinion. We see, first of all, that the last reason a lot of people are talking about it. Rabbi Yosef said that Chamishos Above is special. That was the day they stopped cutting the wood. Gemara continues, Tanya Rabbi Lezer HaGodel Oimer, not only Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Lezer HaGodel, it's a braisa. And then Ibn Nasha said something about this. So four Tanaim and Merema are talking about this, and the Gemara is making a big deal out of this.
But Rabbi, all this thing did not happen in 1 year. It happened maybe in 500 years.
Yeah.
So how to pick up the last one? How pick up 15 of Av from the first one? It's very
right. So either all the reasons together, or you'd say that each reason separately makes it a Yom Tov.
What's the big deal that this stuff kind of?
Oh, what's the big deal? Let's read it. What's the big deal? All the other reasons you understand.
The most simple thing, wood for the mizbeach.
Yeah, what's the big deal? Now, the other reasons are, Pashtei, that it's a very big deal. It's a very big deal that Shevet Binyamin, Rahman al-Islam, they had such an unbelievable thing with Shevet Binyamin, and finally they reconciled with Shevet Binyamin. Or the fact that there was such a divide between the 12 Shvatim that you can't make Shidduchim between the 12 Shvatim. Shidduchim are hard enough. And as we know today, the more narrow Shidduchim have to be, the harder it is.
And approximately when did this happen with Shevet Binyamin?
I don't know.
In the desert?
In the desert.
That's the reason.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's earlier. So it's a big deal that the Shvatim could get married to each other. Talking to our good friends. Talking about a bocher. It's Talmud Chacham, but he says a couple of people in his family. I say to roommate, do you know someone that doesn't have a crazy uncle? Come on. Madav shemach and shidduchim. That's the problem. Like at every shidduch. And it was not good. It was 12 shvatim, and you can't marry, you can't make shidduchim. So you understand? Shidduchim are happening now. Okay, that's very good. If the Yidden are not allowed to travel up to Yerushalayim, that's a travesty. And now that they have it, that they could go to travel to Yerushalayim, it's a simcha gedola. Haruge Beiter was an unbelievable bizoyan for Klal Yisrael. Chazal described that Beiter was it was an unbelievable thing.
80,000 bodies.
It was a bizoyan otzum, and the Eibishter made a miracle, and so that was a big simcha. But now you're telling me, or the fact that the Yidden, the Meise Midbar, that the Eibishter spared their life, it's a mordecai simcha. The emes Rashi is mashma. The Gemara Rashi emphasizes it, that it was a big simcha because that's the day the Eibishter started talking again with the Yidden. For the whole 40 years, the Yidden in the desert, the Eibishter never spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu. That day was not only that their lives were spared. That was the first day the Eibishter spoke again to Moshe Rabbeinu. And Rashi says, also mishta v'simcha. They made it a big mishta v'simcha. Not only the people that their life was spared. All Klal Yisrael made a mishta v'simcha because that was the day the Eibishter spoke again. That's a big simcha. What's the big simcha? That they stopped cutting the wood. What's the simcha? The emes there is a machloikis here. The Gershon says, Rabbeinu Gershon says, Yom sheposkum lichles eitzam lamarocha lefi shah shoya asukum lichles atzam marocha hoyim izbatlu metal matoyim. Avloisa Yom posak vasu Yom Tov shemekam ve'elach hoyoiskim betoyra. That they were not learning Torah because it was chopping wood. So that was a Yom Tov, and that according to him, the hemshech Gemara is the Moise of Yosef, that the Gemara, it's a hemshech about that the nights are big and you should focus on learning Torah. The Rashbam doesn't like Rabbeinu Gershom's pshat, and you understand right away why Rabbeinu Gershom doesn't like his pshat. First of all, the Gemara doesn't make a mention that the Maila is because that day they could learn more. It sounds like the Gemara says a new thing, that the nights are very big, so we should spend more time learning Torah. And the Eibishter says, don't worry, if you're going to have things you have to do, I'll give you extra life, don't worry. But to say that that's the whole reason of, and that's not mashma, and also it's like a bizoin to the Beis HaMikdash, to make a Yom Tov because we stopped cutting wood. So the Rashbam doesn't like that pshat. The Rashbam says,
they didn't need the wood for...
They need it. But to say that they make a Yom Tov the day they stop cutting, it's a funny thing.
The halacha is that you're not allowed to bring wood that has warm inside, like a chair. So when the sun is strong, there's no warm in the tree. When the sun is weak, they're dry. So when it's start getting cold. That's why it's
right. And so Rabbeinu Gershom is a funny pshat. The Rashbam doesn't like it. The Rashbam says no. That the Eitzim is going to have a lachluchis and there's going to be a osha. The gam yigdal telas. It's interesting. They said two reasons. The Rashbam. One is that the wood after Chamisha Ba'ov is going to be a little more moist, so it'll be mila oshan. Obviously, there's always going to be an oshan because we say that there were 10 authors that have better oshan. It's a totally different oshan. As we know, when we had a couple of weeks ago some oshan coming here from Canada, there wasn't such a geshmaka oshan.
Right.
When the wood is absolutely dry, so there is oshan because Varaya there was 10 nisim, and one of the 10 miracles was that the ruach never moved the pillar of oshan. It doesn't smell, it's not black, it's a different color smoke, it's a geshmaka smoke, it's a nice smoke. And the other reason is that the telas, the minimum medesh Eikev Yaakov Acha b'shem Rabbi Yosef Emer, shabai kol azman titz lamazbech, kol eitz shenimtz b'talas pasal lamazbech, kol eitz shu niktzas ein oisa ma'achoyles. Once you cut the wood, we're not worried about ma'achoyles. It's only one that's growing on the tree. After, when they store it in good condition in the lishkas ha'etzim, the basic. They're not worried about telas. They're not worried about the telas. They're worried about the telas when they're cutting it. So after Chamish Asabov, it's possible. You're not allowed to cut wood. The Chachamim made that the cut-off day to cut wood, 15th above. After that, it's possible to cut the wood to bring to the Mizbeach. Because that day they finished a big mitzvah. Understand why the Rashbam didn't like the Rabbeinu Gersh, and that is another pshat. Now the Rishonim have a lot of fun with this Rashbam. For example, there's a famous Yam Shel Shlomo that talks about why we make a seal. This is the Gemara he brings, that ayah, because they were Messiah mitzvah. That from this we learned that when a person makes a seal Masechta, or that's why we make Simchas Torah, because we finish reading the Torah. This is brought in Shulchan Aruch. So this is it's a big deal. From here we learn the whole idea of making a siyum, and it's the shaila is, what's taka the mitzvah gedoyla? What's the mitzvah gedoyla? Wouldn't the siyum hashas be more important than cutting the eitzim? And the other nakuda is the taka machloikis in the Rishonim. What is a pshat that was Yom Tov HaMagel? Some of the Rishonim say Tov HaMagel is just a code word that they put the magel away and they put it in. But the other Rishonim say no, that they actually took the magel and they broke it to pieces. Why would they take the magel and break it to pieces? What's Hazoy de Zach? So you could say because you're not allowed to use it for choil, because it was used for the Beis HaMikdash. Leave it for next year. Why can't you put it in the shed and leave it for next year? You say, in the Beis HaMikdash, ein aniyas v'makam hashirus. Every time the guy, the electrician came to the Beis HaMikdash, like plumber, so all the kelim went in the garbage. I mean, what's so bad to keep? You have a set of a few hundred axes. It was not one axe. People were standing. They had big ones, small ones, different sizes. So you put it back in the boxes. You clean them up. You polish them. You put them in the boxes, and you put them back in the shed.
It's not sharp anymore for next year.
Huh?
It's not sharp anymore for next
year. It's not sharp anymore for next year. And they called it Yom Tov HaMagel, and they made a big deal. So the Rebbe has a beautiful pshat. Everything that happens in Chamisha Asar B'Av is really against what happened on Tisha B'Av. So if on Tisha B'Av there was a Zayda, Rahman al-San of the Churban, and that was connected with the killing of the people of Beiter, Chamisha Asar B'Av, there was at least that they were buried. Chamisha Asar B'Av, there was a lot of things that happened that are the tikkun for of Tisha B'Av. You know, that Koliboy Meisei Midbar. That was the day they complained. They said, you're not going into Eretz Yisrael. So Chamisha Asar B'Av was the day that at least the last group of people that were 20 years old, that at least the Eibush spared their life, and you could go into Eretz Yisrael. You see how the things of Chamisha Asar B'Av are a tikkun of the things that happen, and a lot of things. For example, you say that Yom Shebitul B'Sheh Ben Eila Perdesoyos, that there were guards in the way, and that Yerovam didn't let the Jews from Aseret HaShvatim go to Yerushalayim. So that's the very opposite of the Churban. 10 Shvatim could not do the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. A. B. There was an unbelievable divide now, that there was no the Yidden were not friends. Like this. When the Yidden were Oile Regel, it says that the people in Yerushalayim would go out and greet Achenu Shebamakom Ploini, Achenu Shebamakom Ploini. It created an unbelievable achtos. Chazal say that when all the Yidden came to Yerushalayim, I saw you last year. How you doing? You see every year. Can you imagine Yerushalayim every year? People saw it was the bungalow, Sheva bungalow. Everyone saw each other, and everyone said, how are you doing? Oh, you have a new baby this year. You have a new son-in-law this year. What's going on? So it was an unbelievable thing, A, of Achdus, and B, avoiding the Beis HaMikdash. So that's the opposite of a Churban Beis HaMikdash. So what's the Inyan over here? The Rebbe says that here is, in a way, the biggest mitzvah and the biggest simcha is Krisus Eitzim. Why? Because what's the idea of the eitzim that in order to bring karbonas, this is the whole thing of karbonas. The whole base of mikdash, Rambam says, is li's bais muchen li's makrivim by karbonas. If a person doesn't have Veda, he doesn't even know. It's like lishkas chashoyim. It says in the base of mikdash there was a place where they gave tzedakah that was done in a quiet way. It was called lishkas chashoyim. That no one knew who is the Oni didn't know who gave him, and the Usher didn't know who he gave it to. Similar to that, it's like an unbelievable mitzvah. There were people that sinned, so he sinned. So in his business, so he let him buy a korban chatos and let him bring his korban chatos to the Beis Hamikdash, and it's his business. We need eitzim. It's his business. No, there's no such thing. So there's a inyan of there were mishpachas that felt a responsibility of a certain avos yisrael that we have to make sure that the lishkas eitzim is well stocked in the Beis Hamikdash, and this was an unbelievable undertaking. That's an inyan of achdus. B'chlal, and the Yerushalmi says that tzedakah is whenever the Yerushalmi says mitzvah means tzedakah. The Alter Rebbe says that we had it in the chitas lately, that we see that the tzedakah is the biggest mitzvah in a certain way. Why is tzedakah the biggest mitzvah? And the Shabbos, the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says, because when a person sometimes puts the whole neshama into a business deal, or if he's working, he puts his whole neshama into it. It's like lo yamolet that it's one time a person put his whole heart into making these couple of dollars, and now when he gives it away for tzedakah, so he's giving his whole neshama away to the Eivishter. So the Yerushalmi calls tzedakah is called mitzvah. Tzedakah is called mitzvah. Yerushalmi nikre mitzvah stam tzedakah. So here, there's the ultimate inyan of tzedakah. It's someone else did an aveda. It's not my business, but I feel achrayis is to Klal Yisrael. So therefore, I went out and it's a big job. If you see people chopping trees, today. It's an achrayis. It's a big thing, It's not cheap when you want to cut a tree because it's a big achrayis. These people they put their lives out there to go chop trees, which is a difficult avodah. They didn't hire what they call a couple of hekapekers from south of the border. They didn't have those machines at all, and they stood there and the Beis Hamikdash wasn't stopped. They ate somewhere. It was a size, it was meduyik, and it was clean, it was neat, and it was polished. And they didn't throw like when you go and you buy for $5.99 a package, or because you're camping and you're making a fire to roast some marshmallows. This was an avodah gedola, an avodah kosher, and so that was mamish. That's the ultimate of tzedakah. The ganze neshama, he went out to the forest and he chopped and he chopped and he did. And the day that they were mashlim, this mitzvah, it's a mitzvah which is tzedakah. And it's tzedakah gufa, it's the highest level of tzedakah. You don't know who's going to use it. And the people that are using it don't know who went out in the forest and chopped it. They're not walking over saying yeshikoyach to you. No one knows. The people come Beis Hamikdash, they came, they brought the korban. And the people that went and chopped didn't know who's going to use their wood. So that is an unbelievable form of tzedakah. So all the people that were involved, so the last day when they did it was they made a big Yom Tov, a big simcha, because this was a maragalate, the whole neshama. This was tzedakah of the highest degree. They put their whole heart and soul into it. So in Mela they made a big mishta, a big simcha. They were mashlim. This was not stam a psasiyah masechta.
We know which shevet was cutting the wood.
It was 9 families, but 9 families, different shvatim. The Mishnah goes through the different families. But anyone that wanted, there was one day that anyone that wanted could join in, and that was Chamisha Sabov. The other days, if you didn't belong to the family, they'd say, "I'm sorry, you can't join." But Chamisha Sabov was the ultimate day. That day, any Jew could come to the forest and join in, because that was like considered that Chazal made that day as the day. The other 8 days, if you're not part of the family, you don't join. So this day, Chazal made it should be a Moedik Yom Tov, because this is the biggest mitzvah you could do. Avas Chinam. And this is the opposite of Sinas Chinam. Because the Chazal say that the second base, what's the main thing of Tisha B'Av? There's 5 reasons. The main thing is the Churban. And what's the main Churban? The second base of Mikdash. And what is the reason for it? Sinas Chinam. So the idea of Chamisha Asabov is the opposite of it. It's Avas Chinam, and it's the union of building the base of Mikdash in the strongest way. There's Li's bias, Li's Mochonim, Lakrib Boy Korbanos, and that was the avodah from Chamisha Asas. Chamisha Asas is the opposite of Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is Sinas Chinam, Churban Beis HaMikdash, and Chamisha B'Av is Avas Chinam, and the union of the ultimate of building the Beis HaMikdash, just stacking wood, Li's bias Much and Li's Makrivim Boy Korbanos. The Rebbe says that's why the Menashe adds. The Menashe says you should know that this day was Yom Tov HaMagel. Chodesh Baltashches. The Chazal wanted to emphasize that they made a public thing of smashing the Magel. Why? Because Chazal say that Barzel Nivra Lekatza Yom HaShalom. Metal, Chazal say that anything, if Chas V'Shalom, if someone hits someone else, a piece of wood, so the Bezdin will always measure how big was the wood, how strong the person was hitting him, maybe he meant, maybe he didn't. Metal, Kimlo Chazal, the Torah said that smallest, a bullet that's as big as this, if it's made out of metal, it's interesting. Chazal are talking 2,000 years ago, more. Chazal's talking. Chazal says today we know it's ungenommen that a little bullet could Chazal Kimlo Chazal that a little piece of metal that could take a person's life away. So therefore, that you're not allowed to put a barzel on top of the mizbeach, because the mizbeach is made a person's life should be long, and the barzel makes the person's life should be short. So therefore, Chazal made a public thing out of breaking the garzen, because when we need the garzen, we need it. But now that we don't need it anymore, of course, next year, well, there was an Inyan to show. There was an Inyan to show that that day they wanted to make a big, like, hoo-ha of the day. So how did they make a big hoo-ha of the day? Are you going to bring? We'll bring sandwiches from Mechi. We'll bring. They wanted to make a big thing. We'll bring some sandwiches from pomegranate. What's the talk? So they said, we're going to make a big deal out of this day. We're going to break and everyone is going to come around, and people will hear the idea, they will understand the idea that Barzel came to be Mekatze Yom of Shaladim, and the Mizbeach is to Meirich Yom Shah. If we needed the Barzel, so we needed it, but now that we don't need it, then we're breaking it.
See, the Shamir was cutting the woods?
No. They used the Magel. They didn't use Nissan. But the Chazal still, they wanted, so it wasn't Baltashkas. They wanted to show, make a big deal out of the day, and they do it through showing that this is Marich Yom of Shalodam and the Barzel of Makatzer. So bottom line is, and this is why Mishas Vav is a big symbol. It's the union of Avas Chinam, that people were taking their time, people were taking an unbelievable effort going out to chop wood for other Yidden to be able to use.
I was talking about Shidduchim before. I was in Shiur by Yoshiyahu Pinto in Little Shalema, but maybe 15 years ago. And I was working by Mendes on 7. So he was talking about Shidduchim. So I raised my hand and I asked, are you allowed to be alive for Shidduch? You know what the answer is? If a Shidduch without a life is not a Shidduch. And it's Shidduch, and what there are hundreds of people.
What the ראשי תיבות from Shafan?
What?
ראשי תיבות from Shafan. שין דלת חוק נו. שקר דובר, כסף נלקח.
Okay, listen, there's a Maimah from the Alter Rebbe that says that every shidduch has to have a little bit of something. It says because so some things have to go higher than Tam Vadas. This is something which is so higher than Tam Vadas that it has to go with something which is not true. But anyway, back to what we're saying. This ties in with many of the other things. Chazal decided to use this day for Achdus. That was a day to make shidduchim. And it was done in a way of Achdus. Number one, that there was idea of dancing. Dancing, mochel, means that they're holding hands and dancing together. Chazal say mochel means they're holding hands and dancing together. Kamar emphasizes that the girls didn't stam dance, but they were Likkutei loy levayish mishain loy, that everyone that the Bas Kohen Gadol went to the Bas Melech and so on, and they So again, that shows the union of Achdus and Klal Yisrael. Chazal wanted to use up that day that it should to emphasize the union of Achdus. Why? Because Tisha B'Av is the union of the opposite of Achdus. So Chazal wanted to emphasize that Chamishas B'Av is a day of Achdus. So that's why it's an unbelievable day. This is this week, Chamishas B'Av, Dev Shel Halfen. The Rebbe says one more thing, that Tovar HaMagel, I mentioned the Shabbos, a beautiful word. The Pasuk says that when Mashiach will come, the Pasuk says that the Gewalt will be, in the beginning of Navi Yeshaya says, the Kosach Harvoisam Liitim, Bechan Nesayim Lemizmoris, Lo Yisagol Goychereb Liyamudo Malchama. So the Rebbe says that this was the Remes, the union of Yom Tov HaMagel. That the Remes is that that's the day, in this chus of this day, that we break the Magel. Magel is to be Mekatze Yom Shalodom, a axe. It's a knife. It's there to Chas v'Shalom shorten human life. So this is the day when we smash all the knives. That's the day of smashing the knives. No more knives, no more axes, because this is the day that Mitzvah Shem is Mesugel for coming Mashiach. Amen. And that's the Mashiach will come. It'll be the ultimate of Arichos Yom of Shalodom. You couldn't have a bigger Arichos Yom in eternity. With Bitchis Amazing, with people live forever. It's Arichos Yom. We couldn't have a bigger Arichos Yom. Maybe should help that this year, Take Chamishas B'Av, that should open up a fountain of Avos Yisrael, Achos Yisrael. That's what we're going to verbring, exactly. And we should be zeicher that just like it says that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is also Lasa Mochem Tzadikim v'Yosher B'Yanayim, and everyone's going to point to the Eibishter, everyone's going to see the Eibishter, will feel close to the Eibishter, as Hine Alekeinu Zeh, Eibishter Lofon Take, that this year every one of us should feel the Achdus, and we should be zeicher Take to have Tovar HaMagel.
I need to mention it.
Machen gute Shidduchim.
Easy Shidduchim. That's something.
Ora vadane la nola la vacha che cosa non va a fare la scelta
Oh, thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah, shkoyach. Thank you, Rabbi. Shatz and shkoyach. Yeah, shkoyach. You, Rabbi. I did late.